So I made a video yesterday talking about one of this game's more advanced mechanics, which is switch guard. And generally, most players that are around the low to mid level don't tend to use switch guard due to its uh, sort of high execution requirement during an actual battle. But it is used extensively in high level play. So instead, this time I wanted to talk about the most basic sort of beginner knowledge that you should have when playing Last Blade 2, and that is the different modes in the game. So in the game there are three modes. There is Power, Speed, and EX. And each of these has their own strengths and weaknesses, so I'm just going to run through them now, starting with Power. So the first thing to note about Power is that Power runs on a link system. So if you don't know what that is, it's very similar to Street Fighter or SNK games that are usually more well-known, like KOF, for example, where the startup of your move must correlate to the hit stun that it causes for them to link. So, for example, in order for that to link, you need to time it so that at the end of the first jab, you are doing the next jab within the time that the first jab's hit stun gives you. Like that. So generally what this means is that Power will have the shortest combos in the game. This does not mean that Power Mode has no cancels, because Power Mode actually does still have special cancels, like this. I don't have to manually time the link between the heavy and the DP heavy because it's a cancel, so it'll just do it. So there's no timing involved there. The same can be said for supers, which I'm just going to quickly do, like that. Now, that doesn't have to be like timed per se, although that one is a little bit tight compared to some others, because of how you switch sides. So you have to input the move before you're fully switched the sides of the opponent. That's just the nature of this character, but so generally what this means is that Power will deal a lot more damage per hit than the other modes. This is because each hit is a link, and it has to be linked together, so there isn't much in terms of combo game, and so individual hits must do more to compensate. So generally, Power will tend to be more defensive focused than the other two modes, which is Speed and EX. And one of the defining features of top tier characters is the ability to link together a wide variety of different moves. For example, the character Mukuro can link his 4A or back jab into his 5B or his standing heavy, which not very many characters can do in this game, and that's sort of like a running theme with a lot of the top tiers, is that they have one really strong button that can link into a whole bunch of stuff that gives them a lot of damage for a lot of straight hits. Generally, the moves that can link into that also just tend to be really, really strong due to their speed and their frame data. So often you'll see lots of the top characters in the game play defensively, get one hit in, and then deal a ton of damage because of how free their links are. Generally though, these require a decently high execution. I believe most 4A 5B links, or things like it, like the 2C 5A or 5B, that is usually a 1-frame link, maybe 2. It's sort of character dependent. Um, but yeah, so that's an interesting thing to keep in mind when discussing the strength of characters, is that power mode characters that can do extended links or have a lot of link opportunities are generally going to be considered stronger in this game. So on block, power mode almost always has better frame data than speed and EX, just overall. And one of the more interesting things about power is that on block, all of your heavy moves will actually bounce off the opponent when it's blocked. This is a good thing, actually, because you can see that when we just whiff the move, there's actually more minus frames on this than on the bounce. So when you play on the other modes, this bounce won't happen, so the full animation will play. And this means that, yes, the frame data is actually worse than the bounce. Now, another thing that we should talk about is meter building. So, excuse me. One of the interesting things about power that can make it very potent in its damage is that on block, you still build meter whenever you hit the opponent. This is unique to power. The other two modes can't do this. So often, power will be able to use supers far more often than other modes. And this is good because supers in this game do quite a fair amount of damage. As you can see, that was only a 1 button into super, and that did almost 50%, so it's kind of a big deal. Now, there is a mechanic in this game called desperation. It's basically just like when you're at 25% health or lower, you can use supers as freely as you want. Now, there are a couple other games that do have mechanics like this. One of the ones that comes to mind immediately for me is Sailor Moon, because you'll see a lot of raw supers when they're in desperation. Now, it isn't quite that simple though, because here in training mode, the game automatically puts you into desperation, even though you can't actually see it. So the thing is that if we set the sword gauge to normal, there are extra supers that you gain when you are in desperation, although there's only one character that gets 2 of them, which is Kaide. Now, if I can input the super, I think it's actually forward. Yeah, it's forward. Now, when you're at desperation, and you use your full meter here. You have a full meter, you can use your super desperation move, because a normal super is just called the desperation move. So a super desperation move is usually a higher damage super than the normal one, but there are many desperation or super desperation moves that are either very difficult to combo into or just impossible to combo into. Now, Hibiki is one of the characters that has a super desperation that is very, very difficult to combo into, but it's possible. Characters like Washizuka and Kojiro cannot combo into their supers at all. It's just not possible, and generally you're not going to see it that often unless it's just an elaborate bait or the person playing them is just godlike, like Mifune. Now, there are also unique cancels to power, and usually this has to do with either canceling into a special off of a move or canceling into a super off of a move. So we're playing Power Hibiki here. If we input Core Circle back forward and then kick, it will give us a forward heavy kick, or a forward kick. This is not really that big a deal, because but if you input A and B directly after you press that, it will give you a super, like so. Now, in the other modes, you can't do this because for most characters, I believe all characters, um, in uh, Speed or EX, or no, actually, it's just Speed. Uh, Characters in Speed cannot cancel 6C into any specials or supers. I think the only exception to that rule might be Kaide, because he may be able to cancel forward kick into roll. I don't know if he can. He might not. I might. Yeah. No. I think. No. He can't. He can't. Okay. No. I remember now. He definitely can't. So this is kind of like the major one because a lot of characters can really take advantage of 6C because 6C causes a wall bounce. This is actually stronger than you might think because it can allow for lots of juggle combos. So characters like Akari, Setsuna, uh, Kaede, they all take a lot of advantage of 6C. So not being able to use that is kind of a detriment. Now the last thing I want to talk about for power is 5BC. So in both modes, or like all three modes, 5BC is an input, and depending on whether or not you're using power or speed, and by extension EX, you will get a different move. So for power mode, every character gets this move, which is a very slow, chargeable move. The thing about this move is that it is unblockable. So if we set them to guard, they still get hit. Now this might sound good, but it isn't, and that's mostly because parry is a mechanic. So if you try to go for this extremely slow move, while yes it is unblockable, 9 times out of 10 against a good player, you're going to get parried. And then you're going to eat in like a full punish, they're going to dump all of their meter on you, it's not going to be a good time. So most of the time I say don't use this, unless you are playing a certain character which has a really good one, and you got a really good read. The one that comes to mind when I say that is probably Mukuro, because Mukuro's goes like half screen, but for a character like Hibiki, or especially Akari, for example, just don't use it. It's terrible. So with that, next we're going to talk about speed. Now, I'm using Hibiki specifically as an example here because she's just really... she can take advantage of both of these modes, as well as just being like an okay example for showing the difference between power, speed, and EX. So, speed is different from power in that it uses a cancel system. So if you've ever played an anime game like Melty Blood or Dragon Ball FighterZ, these games run on a cancel system wherein you can just cancel moves into each other freely. So there's no timing on these moves really. You can just link them together. It's not a big deal. So generally you'll see a lot more combo game with speed characters. So if you're a fan of like doing bigger combos and like doing really cool swag stuff, then speed is definitely the way to go, because we all know that style is better than practicality. Now, another thing with speed is because of its combo game, how generally it's much easier to confirm off of straight hits, and how its frame data is generally worse overall. This tends to make speed much more aggressive than power is. So you have to get in and you have to make your presence known, and oftentimes speed mode will be more focused on hitting mix-ups and whatnot. And there's a couple reasons for that. So first, I just want to talk about another feature that is a speed mode feature, and that is auto combos. There actually is auto combos in this game. Not that they're super great. There's a few exceptions where auto combo is actually quite good, and that is primarily Speed Kaide and Speed Yuki. So Speed Kaide has a unique sort of cancel, or at least it has a unique property, I should say, wherein the frame data for this move right here, 5B, changes when it's in an auto combo. So how to do an auto combo is actually quite simple. It's literally just light, heavy, and then kick, or A, B, C. And it will always cause a hard knockdown. Now, what makes Kaide's specifically interesting is because of the unique property that it gives you. So the hit stun that is given for 5B in an auto combo is actually greater than normal, allowing you to link back into the auto combo again. So you can do AB, AB, and then like DP or something, and that'll just work. Or you can do, I think it was AB, AB, 2B, 6B, and that's an actual combo. So that makes his combo game a bit more interesting than other characters. And in the case of Yuki, the reason why her auto combo is really good for her is because her damage is just so bad that the auto combo does more damage than a meterless, like, normal combo. If you couldn't tell, she's not very good. So yeah, that's one of the things. And the other one is speed chain, which I've already sort of shown. It's this. So this is just AA. I'm just pressing A twice, and that gives me an extra normal. Now this normal is sort of infamous for being kind of obnoxious at times, because most of these don't give you very much hit stun, and that's on purpose. Because there's characters like Speed Kojiro, for example, who can sort of take advantage of how much hit stun her speed chain gives her. Or actually, no, I'm actually wrong about that. No, that's this. So, but this is actually still sort of an example of what would happen. So, as you can see, she can link those two moves together. Now, while that isn't her speed chain, it's still a chain. It's kind of a part of the speed chain, because in truth, the speed chain is 3 normals and not 2. Because while, yes, this is the actual extra normal, if you hold 4 or back while doing just like 3 lights, that will still do 3 automatic moves, right? So this is sort of the full speed chain. You will probably see this pretty often, but generally people like to do this instead. So instead of using that low hit stun normal that can sometimes be a pain to link into, they will instead do a crouching light, which offers more hit stun and can still link to the next move. I think it also does a little bit more damage too. Yes, it does 2 more damage. So it gives higher damage, and it gives an easier chain. So next, I want to talk about the meter building, because as we said before, power mode can actually build meter on block. Oh wait, no, actually it can. Okay, so that's another thing that the wiki's wrong about. That wiki is so bad. So, while yes, speed can still build meter on block, it doesn't build as much. I think it builds about around half, and the same goes for on hit, actually. I believe that on hit, it just builds less meter. Yes, this is true. So, it's not that big a deal, because your combos are longer, and depending on the character, you can still build quite a bit. But depending on who you're playing, like Cough Cough Yuki, you're not going to be building that much meter, and you won't be able to actually use your supers very often unless you're in desperation. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Generally, you're going to have to rely on meterless combos more often than not. So next, I just want to talk about probably one of the most important parts of speed, specifically, and that is Fandango. So this is a nifty little super, because it's a 50-50. So if you press down down light, then it'll be an overhead, and if you press down down heavy, it'll be a low. Now the overhead does more damage, so if you're going for like max damage, then you want to go for the overhead. So whenever you're doing a true link into Fandango, which actually Hibiki does have, it's just a little bit harder than some other characters. Who's the easy one? I know the easy one is Kaede here. Kaede probably has the easiest Fandango confirm. So when you're doing a true confirm into Fandango, which only a couple characters can do, then you want to go for high, right? So Fandango isn't really that simple though, because you have to do a complete chain. So there are set inputs for each character. I believe there's 4 routes per character, and each one will do different amounts of damage, will offer different amounts of hard knockdown for tech chases and whatnot. And one of them will always launch the opponent. I think the launch combo is always the same, too. Yes. So for every character, you basically have 2 routes that are universal. So the first is A, B, C, A, B, C, A, B, course forward C. And then the other one is A, B, C, 2C, 2A, 2C, 6BC. Now, the timing for Fandango is actually kind of wonky, because how they intend you to do it is that you need to input the move that it wants you to during the animation of the move before it, which is kind of weird, but I think that's because of the first hit. So this first hit doesn't actually count as an input, only the ones after it do, so in order to keep the timing consistent they had to do that, which I mean, I guess. But it does require a decent amount of practice to get it down right. Even right now, I'm not doing it very great, because the timing for different characters' Fandangos is sort of unique to the buttons that they use. It's not always the same, some are faster, some are slower. I think Kaide's is one of the slower ones, I think. I think Kojito's is faster, and that's the one that I can do most of the time. Now, the cool thing about the launcher is that you're still actionable after it, so you can follow it up. And this does include supers. You can actually super after a Fandango like this. So if I can just do this real quick, like that. So this actually still works, because in Desperation, supers are free. The only thing is that Fandango isn't. So this is going to be your replacement for Super Desperation, but you don't need to be in Desperation to use it. You can use it at any time, you just need the full meter, no matter what. Especially even in Desperation mode, you still need the full meter to use it, so you can't just use it willy-nilly, because that would honestly be kind of OP, because it is, in fact, a true 50-50 if used correctly. Most characters have to hit a parry and then immediately go into Fandango for it to be a true 50-50, because sometimes if you don't time it correctly, or if you use it in a situation that isn't good, you can actually get parried for it, or you can get jumped over and punished and whatnot. So it's not like super OP, but there are some characters that can do true 50-50 setups without parry. Kojiro is probably the easiest example of this, because all you have to do is 5A, 2A, 5B, and that will give you just enough distance and just enough hit stun that this will still be a true 50-50. They cannot parry this, they cannot do anything about it, they have to choose. Now, that was a glitch, by the way. I just kind of did that on the fly. This game is kind of buggy, but yeah. So that's how Fandango works. It's a very strong mechanic. Most characters that can either do a true 50-50 or combo into it true, which Kojiro can do both, is generally going to be very scary once they have meter, because that 50-50 will deal a lot of damage. Now, something that I forgot to mention about power was actually stun. Now, there are very few characters that can actually take advantage of stun properly. The only one that really comes to mind is Okaide, which is a quote-unquote secret character that you have to input a code for. His combos in power are long enough that he can cause a stun. So right here we've stunned Moria, and off of that you can reset into another combo. Now, when you do a combo, I don't know if you can hear that, but my dog's barking. When you do a combo in this game, that's very funny, is that when you do a combo, it can only do so much damage. It can only hit a certain amount of damage before the combo just won't anymore. The combo that I was doing with Kojiro that I actually dropped at the end there actually does hit that cap. So the damage cap reaches the value of 180. And basically what that means is that you can do 75% damage in one combo before the combo will stop doing any damage at all. So that's one thing to keep in mind. And when you do a stun, your actual like combo will reset. So if you do a combo with Okaide into a stun, then usually that combo will actually just kill the opponent. So it will be a tournament legal TOD. I believe only he can do it. That doesn't stop him from being bad because of his poor normals, poor range, slow startup, his low damage off pokes, and his really, really bad supers. But if he hits you, and if the player's really good at inputting these combos, you are dead. Just keep that in mind, I guess. Now, speed mode, unlike power, can't stun. Just can't do it. There's no stun, can't build up stun, because I think they guessed it would be too easy to do it. They could have just made the stun values really low and still had it, but I think it's probably a good call not to have stun. Sorry, not to have stun in this game when you're playing as speed or EX character. And it's not like they really need it, because I think if we make them crouch, yeah, just make them crouch. So next we're going to talk about 5BC again. This time it's going to be speed modes of 5BC, and it's this move. So even though it doesn't look like it, because they're attacking from down to up, this is still an overhead. And I believe, yeah, well that doesn't make any sense. Now what's supposed to happen there is that when you get hit by 5BC while you're crouching, I don't know why it's not working here, but usually you'll get stunned, or like sort of like the character will sort of like whoa backwards, and then you can reset into another combo. The only issue is that most really strong players in this game can mash out of it fast enough, and that's kind of crazy. But basically, if you press B, C, and D all together, and you press it 3 times fast, I believe that will get you out of it. That's what Mifune told me. I don't know if that's like exactly how to do it, but apparently, yeah, that's how you do it. I mean, he can do it fast enough to parry the incoming attack, so it's, yeah, they can break out of it fast. So in high level play, this doesn't seem very much use. But in low to mid level, this can be a very powerful tool. And when you combo into the move, or when the opponent is standing, as you can see, they get launched. For certain characters, this is more impactful than others for combos. So if we go with Kojiro here, we just do like, I don't know, this, I can actually combo into my DP, and that'll be true. So for certain characters it can be pretty useful. It is also a decent anti-air. In Kojiro's case, she has this instead, which is better, but whatever. And I've already explained it before, but as I said, they can't cancel stuff like 6C into anything at all, so it's kind of a bummer, but it's fine. Now, next is EX. I'm gonna see if I can actually input this first try. Who am I gonna pick for EX to explain here? I actually didn't decide this before, but yeah, I think who's a good example? I guess Hibiki will work. So you have to have input of a certain code. I believe it is on speed C6 B4 on power, and then go back to speed, and then C3. I'm gonna check it real quick. You have to do that within 4 seconds, so it's kind of an irritating thing to input sometimes. But yeah, so we're just gonna... Actually, we're going to use Yuki. Yeah, let's do that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. No, I messed it up. Okay, bear with me here for a sec. This input is kind of irritating. I personally do not like doing it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. Got it. Okay, so here we have EX. So most EX palettes are sick, but here's how EX works. So EX still uses a chain system or a cancel system like speed, but their damage values are higher. So generally they're just going to be doing more damage than speed is. They're still not going to have access to stun. They don't have power VC. Instead they have speed VC. And they still have the weaker frame data compared to power. Now, this again makes them more focused on the aggressive side of things, but there's one major caveat that I'll touch on in a second. But they still have stuff like the auto combo and the chain and everything. So all of the things about speed, most of the things about speed they can utilize. Now, now a cool thing about EX is that they can use every super. So I can use normal super, this, I don't know why that took so long. I can use my super desperation like this. This super desperation is unblockable, but it's still really terrible. It's kind of the same way as 5BC. And they can also use Fandango, like this. And so on. So they have access to every super you want. But the issue with that is the meter gain. So the main issue with the meter gain is that on block you gain 0 meter. You gain absolutely no meter for blocked normals, and the meter gain that you get from actually hitting normals is even less than speed. So you're gonna be strapped for meter at all times. So most of the time when you're going to be using supers, it's going to be in desperation and nowhere else. You're going to get at most 1 SDM or 1 Fandango per per every two rounds, and that's it. So you're gonna get one per match, one per set. That's it. So it's pretty rough. Now, one nice thing about EX is that you still have access to those power cancels. So one thing that I forgot to mention about power is that you can actually cancel some specials into supers. So I believe it was this one. Yeah. So Yuki can cancel her quarter circle back light into super. And she can still do this in EX. So any normals that you might use to combo into a super, or any specials that you might use to combo into a super, like Shingen 214A or Setsuna 236A to do these combos into supers, you can still do those in EX. So EX generally does a lot of damage when their stuff works and when they have access to meter and everything. But there's one final thing to note about EX, and that is the damage penalty. So, sorry about that. Here's the thing. You take a flat 30% more damage in EX. Now, if you combine this with certain characters, this can get really bad. And the reason why is because there's three major health variants or so. So there is the normal health, where you just take the regular amount of damage that every character does. And then there is the bigger health bar, which is 10% more health than other characters. And then there's the weaker health bar, which is 10% less than other characters. So characters like Yuki, for example, will take 40% more damage than someone running Power Kaide, for example. So yeah, that's pretty bad, I would say. That's kind of a big deal. You're going to be taking a lot of damage for little things. And depending on what character you're playing against, they can reach the damage cap really fast. So usually you're going to see EX used for characters that already deal a lot of damage, already have a really good aggressive or even defensive tools combined, and also generally characters that have higher health bars are going to be able to use EX better. So Shigen and Amano are sort of like Shigen, Amano, and Moria. Moria's for a slightly different reason. But those two, Shigen and Amano, are generally considered really good on EX because of just the sheer amount of damage that they can deal, and that the health penalty doesn't matter to them as much as some of the other EXs. EXs like Yuki, or especially like EX Kojiro or something, they're just rough. They're just really bad. They're just like you have to play perfectly, and even then you're not doing a crazy amount of damage. It's rough out here. So usually most people stay away from EX unless they're playing one of the top 5 or Shigen. And I would say, yeah, that's probably fair. If you're playing a character that isn't one of those things, you should probably stay away from EX. So that's the differences between each of the modes in the game. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, or if you want to try the game out or anything, feel free to join the Discord. We host a weekly online tournament every Wednesday, and just thank you for watching.